Welcome inside the latest edition of the BRSN Insider. Josh Pound now joined by the women's lacrosse head coach, Amanda Magee. Coach, believe it or not, less than a week away from your season opener. Still got a little bit of time before we get to open up at home, but preseason KCAC poll came out. Preseason favorite to win the KCAC this year just coming out before we went on for this. The preseason rating for the NAI, number 2. So everything's starting to kind of fall into place as you probably expected as you moved into the start of this season.
Yeah, we came back from break and we didn't really have any time off. The girls started first day of classes. We had our first practice. It's been very cold these first 2 weeks, which I guess we should expect by now. But they've been really tough. They haven't complained one bit about the weather, snow, ice, all those sort of conditions. Sometimes we're inside, sometimes we're outside. Those preseason polls came out pretty much exactly where we thought we were going to be. It's exciting to see those things, especially at the national level. But preseason, we can't take too much stock into what the Raiders are doing. A lot of it is based off of last year, and we know every year is so different. So excited to kind of see what's going to happen moving forward.
Reflecting on last year was just kind of like, I don't want to say a domino, but like there was a block every time. You weren't afraid. The non-conference schedule last year was chocked full of top-rated teams. You just kept beating them and beating them and beating them. Did you kind of feel like when you got to Grand Rapids, it was kind of an arrival party for your program?
I definitely think it helped us with our confidence a ton. So last year, we hadn't really played any other teams inside the top 10 besides SCAD. And in those previous years past, they had just totally blown us out of the water. So we didn't really even know what to expect, myself included. Like, what does a top 3 team look like, or the number 4 team in the country? We weren't sure. We knew we were good. We had a lot of talent, but I don't think any of us realized how good we really were until, like you said, we went on that spring break trip and we beat a couple top 5 teams. And, I think we started to realize, okay, we have something really special here. And then getting to Grand Rapids, it was a great accomplishment for us, and not being that number 8 seed too, that was huge. Another confidence boost. It was, last year definitely exceeded my expectations, and it's definitely a season I won't forget for a long time.
Well, looking forward now, KCAC looks a little bit different this season than it did last year. More teams, which means then more conference games. Just talk about how you had to kind of play that delicate balance now. You weren't able to go out and schedule a lot of those other top-rated teams that you did a year ago because now you're locked into a bigger conference schedule.
Exactly what you said. So now the conference has grown almost double in size, so that takes up a lot of our weekends, which normally we would travel to those faraway places to play maybe some higher-ranked teams. So really our farthest trip will be this first trip to Kentucky, and then we'll go back down to Kentucky again for spring break and play 2 teams. I'm excited to see what the KCAC looks like this year. A lot of first-year programs. I think that's kind of been the norm for us. The KCAC has been a little bit up and down with other schools, I guess, besides us, really. So I'm looking forward to seeing what these new coaches are doing and what these new programs have in store for us.
Well, while the growth can be a little bit of a pain, that is also a positive because that means the game is growing. Mm-hmm. And you're that much closer to moving away from invitational status to full championship status. Where do where are we at on that time frame? Do you still think it's about where it needs to be, or is it progressing forward like you would hope?
I think we're in great shape to be full-fledged championship sport by next year. So that 2021 season, I think we should be right around that number. We need 40. I believe right now, if all the schools continue to stay where they're at, and the ones who are adding say, that stays the same, we'll be at 41. So we'll be right there. Nobody drop, please. And that's really exciting. And we talked a little bit about that at our national conference in Florida. I think it's just, like you said, the growth is really incredible to see. And even in the past 5 years since we started the program here, it's amazing to see the programs pop up in Iowa and Nebraska, and even at the high school level too. It's getting a lot more popular, and that's where it has to start for us to be able to withstand these college programs. So it's very cool to see.
Well, you touched on it, and now we'll talk about it. You have a trip coming up here this weekend not going to SCAD, but found a neutral site to play them on, a rematch of last year's title game. What do you expect out of this year's game?
For us and the scheduling this summer, I really wanted to try and get them on our schedule and not in the national tournament. I think our biggest issue with them is it's such a mental game. And, we haven't beaten them yet. And every time we have played them, the stakes have been so high. So I wanted to get it on there to say, guys, this is a regular season game, and not that it doesn't matter if we win or lose, because of course I want us to compete and do our best. But I'm hoping this kind of helps us get over that hump and say, hey, they're not this big bad wolf, like you can do it. So I'm expecting, a lot of competition. I think last year we played our best game of lacrosse we've ever played before against them. I think that we have the experience now from last year, so I'm excited to see how different that is going to look on the field on Saturday. And we've had 11 practices. We were counting them out, obviously, before we came back, and it made preseason have a serious purpose, and I think that what has been so helpful. We knew we have to get things done at practice. We can't mess around. There is a purpose to everything that you're doing, and we need to make sure we're on schedule there. So, of course, I'd love to have 3 more months, I don't think we'll ever fully feel ready, but we're excited. I'm ready to see them compete. I know they're ready to compete too.
Well, a lot of familiar faces back from a season ago. Just talk a little bit about maybe a couple of the one or two. You have Mary McInerney, Natalie Wechter, all Americans for you, back again, first team all conference last year. Just talk about what it means to have them back and then have another year of experience with them leading your team.
Yeah, that's huge, and especially the senior class too. Mary McInerney, Casey Moore in the midfield, Taryn back in the cage. Natalie Wechter obviously just had an incredible freshman year. All those freshmen, really, it was just outstanding. I couldn't ask anything more from them last year. But I think that's going to help us a lot, and especially with that mental game too. I think that's our biggest issue, and the more we can work through that and continue to stay mentally tough for that full 60 minutes, I think that's going to be huge. And I'm excited to see what the seniors do this year too. And we talk a lot about like leaving everything out on the field and doing your best and not having any regrets. So I know they are ready for a little revenge for sure, and I think that's a good motivator too.
I guess you could say the Raven Revenge Tour starts Saturday as they'll travel down to Georgetown, Kentucky to take on preseason number 1 SCAD Savannah. Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thanks, Josh.
Shakespeare once said, "Some are born great, and some have greatness thrust upon them. The rest of us," he said, "have to achieve greatness." We know exactly what he means. Be not afraid of greatness. Achieve it. Benedictine College, where greatness begins.
Welcome back to this latest edition of the BRSN Insider. Josh Pound now joined by men's lacrosse head coach Mark Blaise. Coach, believe it or not, you're 3 or 4 days away from the opener. You got Rockers coming onto campus here at the end of the week, but before we get to them, KCAC poll comes out on Friday. News dump on a late Friday afternoon. Picked to be the preseason favorite along with Missouri Valley College. So, and then today the top 10 comes out. You're able to move up from last year's into the season ranking. Just talk about what it means for you as you continue to kind of build this program into the program you want it to be able to get that notoriety as you start a season off.
It's definitely something to reflect on as a program, and the guys that have put in the work before I got here, but also in year 3 for me. It's just really a humbling experience, and it's also for us in the Midwest. The KCAC kind of is a little bit looked down upon, and so we're really looking to build upon that this year. And number 5 is definitely not going to be good enough for us, and so we're definitely looking to move ahead and kind of make some waves and really represent the Midwest. And obviously with our conference, I think we have a really strong conference this year, and really hoping that we have a really strong output in non-conf play with our other opponents.
Looking back at last year, you're able to take the team to its first ever appearance in the National Invitational. Just maybe talk a little bit about what that meant for momentum going into this season.
Yeah, so I definitely when I got hired, it was not a part of my 2-year plan to win conference and go to the national tournament. But it definitely was a huge moving forward piece for us. It was awesome to get that experience. Also kind of show our graduating seniors off to a really great farewell. Really a great accomplishment. But we learned a lot. Definitely understand what it's like to travel down there, practice at a high school, get ready, prepare, kind of know what the lights are kind of going to be like. And I learned a lot as a coach. And I know my guys learned a lot as well.
Well, as we've had a couple of weeks now of preseason practice, you have a number of guys that are back from that core, and even more that maybe didn't get the notoriety, didn't get the all-conference selections, but a good core going into this season. Just talk about how the team is shaped up so far this year.
Definitely. We're really solid on offense. We returned a lot of guys. Obviously we lost some really key midfield pieces. Kyle Tomes, Ryan Heinzer, and Remy Diakovic are guys that were staples for us. But we've really seen a lot of growth in the midfield on a leadership point of view. I'm so pleased with Sean Molyneux, Joe Doyle have really kind of taken that midfield unit and kind of made it their own. And then obviously, attack is a strength for us. Peter Gerard, Jack Candoff, and then Brady Guck, who probably would have been all conference with them had he not been a freshman, he kind of had a late start to the year. But anybody that watched the national tournament game, I think he went off for, 3 goals in, 6 minutes. So we have a really talented offense. Defensively, losing Ethan Novacek is a huge loss. It's a leadership. It's a takedown. It's a number 1 defender. Also we kind of struggled a little bit with injuries this summer. Keaton Carney, who's kind of our number 2 guy, tore his Achilles. He's getting back in the flow of things, but we have a really good core group of sophomores that really any different day, one of them can shut down, your best guy.
Well, Saturday you're going to take on Rockhurst University, an NCAA Division II program. It's kind of been up and down the last couple of years, but usually a pretty solid Division II program. Somebody that you've played a lot. We've played a lot as an institution since we started the program. Just talk about maybe a little bit of it's probably not really a rivalry because of the difference in levels, but the schools, there's always been that history. You also were there before, moving down to the high school level and then coming here. So what's it mean to you to open up a season against a school like Rockhurst?
It's great for me. They're in year 7, and I was part of the first 4 years for them. And so they're a program that we model a lot of things off of, and they've just been consistently taking steps forward. And they kind of share the same mantra, which is that we don't want to be good in the Midwest. We want to be good nationally. So their rankings just came out. The number 13 team in the country for Division II, and they're a really talented team. I would say that it's a little bit more of a rivalry for my guys, less of a rivalry for me. A lot of really good. Those guys are my brothers that are on that coaching staff, and so it's really awesome for us to play probably one of the best teams we'll play all season to start the year. It's a really good growing experience for our younger guys, and they match up really well against us. They're really athletic, and that just pushes us. And the first week after playing Rockhurst is always a fun week on getting stuff done that we knew that we needed to get done, and now it's on film.
Well, noon on Saturday, Coach Blaise and his squad will take on Rockhurst University out here on Legacy Field. Coach, thanks for the time and good luck.
Thanks for having me.
A wise man once said, "The world offers you comfort, but you were not made for comfort. You were made for greatness." Discover what you were made for. Benedictine College, where greatness begins.
Welcome back to the latest edition of the BRSN Insider. Josh Pound, now joined by our wrestling coach here on campus, Marcus Cobbs. Thanks for coming out. Been I don't want to say a slow start to the semester, but it's kind of wrestling season is a grind. There's just it's a longer season than what some may anticipate. But got a couple of duels coming up here at the end of the week. Just talk about how things have gone for you and the team as 2020 has gotten started.
2020 has started off not too bad, if you ask me. We came out with a win over William Penn as the second semester started. We did have to miss a competition due to weather, but that didn't hold us back. We just got back into the restroom, got back to the drawing board, kept grinding for our next competition. After William Penn, we had to run into number 14 in the country, which was Graceland. We lost 28-12. To be honest with you, we had some guys that just came out and wrestled flat. We won 3 matches out of the 9 contested matches. I believe we could have won 5 to 6 of those matches, and we could have came out on top, when you look at it on paper. So right now we're still fixing a little bit of the mistakes that these guys are making, trying to keep them fresh and keep them motivated. Like you said, it is a long season. It is a grind. So what we're pushing toward is the conference championship and getting to that national tournament.
So you got a couple of duels coming up here this week. First, Thursday night, you host your 2020 season opener, or 2020 opener, even not your season opener, but a 2020 opener, a non-conference duel against St. Mary's. Just talk about what kind of they've kind of almost a parallel. They're not as we're not exactly an old program, but they're younger than us, and but the proximity. Just talk about what it means to be able to wrestle against them.
I think it's a good time. It's always a good duel. Me and Coach Carney always try to make it a competitive competition. Just them being crosstown, being over there in Leavenworth, and us here at Anderson, it kind of brings that that crosstown rivalry feel. And so we really enjoy having that duel, splitting it, going there first semester and them coming here second semester. They're a tough team. It's a team that I feel that we should take it to every year. But like I tell my guys every time, don't look over anyone and just be ready to wrestle.
Well, then after that, you've got a conference duel against Baker down in Baldwin City on Friday night. Baker's traditionally a tough program to wrestle against. Just talk about what do you expect out of that one as well?
I expect my guys to go in there and wrestle, 7 minutes their style. Like I said, Baker is a very tough team, top 10 in the country. Their big three is what I like to call them, 74, 84, 97 are just, 3 of the best wrestlers in the entire country. So that's a hump we got to get over. But there are quite a few matches that we can definitely win and come out on top and even bring that duel close to possibly beat them.
So the season kind of, it's probably already peaked. We're in the home stretch. Once you get into that month of February, you hit the home stretch. You'll have a gap for a while after your season finale against Central Methodist before you prepare for the Hart Championships, which will be here on campus on February 22nd. Just kind of take us through a little bit now that you don't necessarily maybe have a midweek duel followed by a weekend tournament. What does the week look like for you and the team?
So we'll be back in the practice room. Biggest thing is that we're going to work our technique and continue to work our conditioning. But with those starters, it's a chance to where their bodies could possibly heal. They can put a little bit more effort into the practice room, and they might be able to put a little bit more effort into the time outside of the practice room when they're training as well to get better for this conference championship. I think it'll lay off some of the stress of having to cut weight and worry about a midweek competition while they got classes and stuff like that. So we can kind of relax, enjoy perfecting our niche, and build up to getting into that conference championship. And it's at home, so I think that'll make them feel a little bit better with their heads on their own bed.
Well, you mentioned, guys not having to worry about cut weight, things like that. And that's something that, wrestling is very unique about wrestling, is that you've got a weight parameter that you have to be at or you can't compete. Just talk a little bit about, we're at a point now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, where weight classes are pretty well locked in. Mm-hmm. You have to declare a certain weight, and then you can't go, up or down based off of that?
Well, to my knowledge, the rules as of right now, you could go a weight class down depending on if your weight program allows you to. You can go a weight class down all the way up to the conference tournament. With that being said, we're talking about, once again, bids to the national tournament. So, say you were ranked in 141 and you want to cut to 133, we lose that ranking out of 41 and may lose that ranking out of 33. Doesn't necessarily mean you'd be able to get that bid if you change your weight class. But yes, weight classes are set. Our guys, we have a couple guys that actually cut a little bit of weight, but most of the guys get down to their weight class by second semester. That way they can get matches in there, catch a bid as far as being ranked at that weight class and try to knock some guys off.
And while duels, you have a set number of guys that wrestle every time. When you sit and Missouri Valley isn't open in there towards the end of the season, the Hart Championship also an open, so you can have multiple guys in weight classes. What's your goal? Are you? You're probably not there. building the program, so still room for improvement. But what do you look to? How many guys ideally this season do you want to be able to send to the mat in that conference championship?
I want to take 12 guys to the conference championship. With that being said, we want to take our best guys. We want to take guys that are not just going to sit there and fill up the bracket slot. We want to take guys that are going to get in the bracket slot and bring points for the team. We want to be able to be a threat in the conference championship, and we want guys that are going to be such a threat that they're qualifying for nationals. If not, they're gaining a at-large bid to get to that national tournament. We want to bring 12 guys, but we want to bring 12 guys that's going to compete.
And finally, as we get ready to host the duel here Thursday, moving into conference, who are some of the names and some of the guys on the team that some of the fans that are going to show up here down the stretch should be anticipate and be ready to watch?
I'm a Raven fan, so all of them. But two names that definitely stick out, and they've stepped up a great deal are Tyson Albright at 184 and Keenan Graff at 149. Keenan Graff's coming off a victory over number 19 in the country from Graceland, which was a big win for him. Tyson Albright's coming off of a big win against Graceland, but also a very well performed competition at the Missouri Valley Invite. He went 3-2, which he went deeper than 4 guys in the top 20 in the country, 2 of those being 10 and 12. And so those guys are right now competing at a high level, and I think those are also 2 guys that are going to continue to build and bring this team to the greatness that it should be. Also 2 guys that I think can make that national tournament come March 6th and 7th.
Well, the push for the national tournament and the Hart Championship starts Thursday night as the Ravens host University of St. Mary right here in the Ralph Nolan Gymnasium. Coach, good luck. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.